Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the only podcast that's running at 13, 5 and 1. A very good week for our podcast as far as wins and losses. We beat the bye at Charlie Pick. Your team did pretty well.
That's right. And after a horror couple of games against the Patriots, and I blocked it out of my mind. Who was it? The
Falcons?
See? I've absolutely blocked it out of my mind. Who was it? Anyway.
Beat you, the Falcons.
The Falcons, yeah, that's right. Gee whiz. See, I obviously took a week off. I didn't listen to any Bills podcasts. I didn't do anything after that game. I was like, I can't face up to how bad that was. But really bounced back this week with no game to play. Although, do you know what? It was a week where, as a Bills fan, and I'm sure the Bills did this themselves, they could have watched some games and said, oh, we've got a long way to go to remain competitive with some of the teams who are doing it right this season. Some who we might have written off early in the season who are starting to become good. And it was a great round of football.
Yeah, and I think, not getting ahead of ourselves, but it's come from a good time for you guys. Obviously, 2 in a row. It was the same with the Packers. We were 1 loss, 1 draw, had the bye. We're now 2-0 since then. So it's probably not a bad time for you to get that. Just a reset and then head into the back end of the season.
Yeah, and that's it's funny. If you asked me at the start of the season, I would have said that that's a bit too early for the bye. You'd like it a couple of weeks later. But as it turns out, a good reset, and in the division, there's a bit more competition than perhaps the Bills would have liked at this stage. They're not top of the division at this stage, and we'll talk about a pretty impressive game that the Patriots played. But I reckon the timing was very, very good, and the one thing I console myself with, and we'll probably talk about this when we do predictions for the next round, the Bills are 8-0 coming out of the bye under Sean McDermott, which is a pretty great stat. But as we've seen this year, stats like that are there to be ruined at some point.
They've been stuffed in a lot of times. You said you didn't do anything, Bills. As soon as that whistle went, you sent me that stat. We've got the bye next week. We've just been beaten by the Falcons. They're 8-0 after a bye, so you knew exactly what was coming. I love that. That's true. We got the bye. I'm going to disregard the next 2 weeks, but we're 8-0. Let's get straight into the 2-minute drill, mate. I've got a question straight up, and after an incredible, it's been an incredible year, an incredible couple of weeks. Is the NFC West, are they the Mac Jones story and the Sam Darnold story, is that the best division in football at the moment?
Yeah, it's very possible. And you can put on top of that just Matt Stafford is playing really great football.
Back. He was done.
For a man who doctors said would never walk again, he's playing some really good football and doing it without Puka Nacua this week, who has been the number 1 receiver in the league. And also what a lot of people might not realize is he does a lot of blocking. And it was interesting, this is crunching some detail here, but the Rams had a great win and they were running 3 tight end sets at a high level that they've not run all season. They've done 6 tight end sets for the year, and they did 20 of them in the last game against the Jags. And that actually speaks to how much blocking Puka Nacua has been doing, that they had to get another tight end on the field to pick up that slack. So it's not just that he's making big catches in big games. He's been doing a lot of work on the field. So you've got the Rams. You have a look today. I'm casting an eye. We're recording this with about 4.5 minutes to go on the Texans-Seahawks game. Seahawks just seem to be cruising over the Texans. And
silly decisions by the Texans, but it looks like we're going to have 3, 5, and 2 teams in the NFC West.
Yeah, so they are. Look, it is a great division, but I would say you've got a lovely, interesting, fascinating division on the other side of the country, the NFC East, with the Cowboys crushing the Commanders. The Commanders have some big questions to ask. And you've also got the New York Giants, who didn't manage to sneak out with a win this week, but they are playing football that is a lot more exciting than we expected. They probably took too long to get Jackson Dart on the field, starting as quarterback this season. But they're playing with a lot of fire, and they are playing some great football. They're making mistakes. You expect that from a young team. But that NFC East is also just really good. And you would have to say that possibly, pound for pound, is Dak Prescott the best quarterback in the league? Is it Baker Mayfield? Is it Dak Prescott? Just for how they're playing at the moment. And obviously in the AFC West, a guy called Patrick Mahomes has a bit to say about that, who seems to have clicked into gear. There's a lot going on.
There is. And then you throw up, I think the NFC North is the only team with every team above 500. I know that's obviously mine, but there's definitely some divisions that are up and about this year. But I like the NFC West just purely because no one, we kind of expected the NFC North to be good. Didn't really expect NFC East to be as good. Everyone kind of wrote off the Cowboys pretty early. And Commanders is an interesting one. I want to go that one because we don't have it to talk about besides now. But Jaden Daniels, again, is a week-to-week prospect. They're saying his hammy is worse than what we think. He had those injury problems early in his career, and he's very Joey Burrow kind of injury prone at the moment.
That's right. And obviously last season was such a stellar rookie season and gave you a lot of faith in the Commanders and a lot of faith in Jaden Daniels. But he did have a pretty good run. You can tell just by looking, he's small. He's a light-bodied quarterback. And he likes to run. He likes to put it on his shoulders and try and get the yards when they have to get it. So, it could be that he has a propensity for injury. And now it is worrying for the Commanders, who've also had trouble with Deebo Samuel with niggling injuries. Terry McLaurin, has had the injury bug also this season. They haven't had as good a run of things as they did last season, and it's looking a lot tougher for them over in that division when a lot of people would have been tipping them maybe to be finishing top 4 in the NFC.
Yeah, comfortably.
Now they've really got it together to get it together if they're going to make a wild card.
Yeah, they definitely have that. The injury bug, obviously Austin Eckler's gone for the season. They haven't really seemed to replace him to the productivity that he was giving us anyway, especially last year. So a lot of questions over the Commanders, especially they were smashed. Doubled their score. So, like you said, Dak's playing some great ball, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting division.
The other thing you would say that the Cowboys' defense, and there's been a lot of questions over their linebackers are a bit smaller, and it's been believed that you can run on the Cowboys about as much as you can run on anyone. But their secondary's been playing really well. They've been playing a lot more man coverage, which is really allowed, Diggs in particular, a quarterback, to play the kind of game that suits him. They're actually playing to the strengths of their players in the backfield. And that's reaping dividends. It was really hard for the Commanders to get anything going against that defense. So it's not just Dak, who's done very well to excel as a quarterback without his biggest target, CeeDee Lamb, who's been out injured. I
think his first catch went for a 74-yard touchdown this week.
That's right. It definitely helped the stats at that point.
Yeah, welcome back, Dak.
But yeah, they're playing a lot better than anyone gave them credit for. They're not quite Miles who at this stage of the season, but they would be very happy compared to how they would have felt when they let Myles Garrett, end up at the Packers.
Myles Garrett, I would have said Micah Parsons.
Oh, sorry,
that's close.
Micah Parsons. That's the kind of day I'm having. I can't even remember who it was. Oh my God,
you're on a bye week. You are. I
really am on bye week mentality.
Just a quick note about that. Kenny Clark has come in and helped enormously with that run defense. So everyone talks about the Micah Parsons side of it. Kenny Clark coming in has been huge. That's too much Cowboys talk. Let's move on to the next one. And another question I've got for you is, and I'm going to give you a few of the next few weeks, obviously. When do these Colts lose? They are just coming and they are just dominating week after week after week. And listen, this is the next 5 weeks I'll give you. Titans, probably win that one.
Think they'll be okay?
Steelers, that's their very big chance to be there. Falcons are so up and down. That's a Berlin game as well. So and then they've got the Chiefs. That's going to be
November 25. That is the one that I had circled in my calendar.
That's an enormous game.
That's going to be huge. And there's every chance that you have two of the hottest teams in the NFL coming up against each other.
There's a chance they're 9-1 heading into that game.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. But I would say, the Colts are going to be that team that until they're beating the Chiefs, until, like they're knocking off those teams that are perennial in the playoffs, maybe we've got questions about them. But they are playing complete football. And maybe my word for the week is blocking. But I was reading some interviews that local reporters were doing in Indy with Jonathan Taylor, who we all know can run all day and all night as well. But he's another one that he's playing more snaps than he has before. He's on the field almost every offensive snap. And that's happening because he's doing blocking as well. And he said that's been a big thing that he worked on in the offseason was his blocking game. So he's on blocking for passing downs for those late, those third downs. And what that actually means is he's getting the ball as a receiving back a lot more. So his receiving yards are up as well. And it all comes from the fact that he's worked hard on his blocking and improved part of his game. They're impressive, the Colts. They really are. And the defense is playing really well. They are arguably the most complete team in football this year.
We've argued it every week at the moment. They again, and I'm probably word of the week for me, is humbled. They humbled the Chargers. They just looked so good, and they didn't really look phased the whole time. They were completely in control. And we always talk about the Triple Crown as far as wide receivers, but the Triple Crown for running back is carries, touchdowns, and yards, and Taylor has got all three covered at the moment. So,
absolutely, and and looking as healthy as he's been since his injury, it's all just there for him to lose at this stage, to be the best running back in football this year. And on the other side of the ball there, the Chargers, it was actually sadly familiar watching Herbert have to try and do it all himself because the Colts defense had just taken away all his options, and he was trying to force big balls deep. He was trying to run into windows that weren't there. It was tough. It was really tough sledding for Herbert. He made some throws that remind you of just how good Herbert is. But the Bolts have a lot of work to do, and their season's not going the way we thought it would after a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that defense has just halted a little bit, and I think having a rookie running back has hurt them a little bit more than what we expected. I mentioned it before. It's been an incredible week, but also an incredible year. Just some of the storylines, just 30 seconds on each of these from you, mate. The Bengals beating the Steelers in an absolute thriller.
Well, yeah, it's I think, first thing you have to say, it's the oldest combined age of the two starting quarterbacks, I think, in the history of the NFL.
I had a look. It's top four. Top four. There's Tom Brady weighed a lot of these the other way, but top four. That it's huge.
Also in the game, a Hail Mary from Rodgers that was the longest attempted pass, I think, in the history of the NFL.
Yeah,
which for an old washed donkey,
stats wise, there's probably been more, but they didn't keep stats back in the day.
But also just an exciting time for the Bengals, they're hanging in there. Change a quarterback, and a chance to actually get some wins along the way, waiting for Joe Burrow to come back, which is what they didn't have. Previously when Burrow was injured, they just couldn't keep enough wins there. But the Steelers at the same time, they're, what are they now? Are they 5-2 now? I think they're the 5-2 Steelers. No one was expecting the 5-2 Steelers at the start of the season. So yeah, incredible game between those two.
4-2, even better.
4-2? Really?
So that's, I think, and you make a great point for the Bengals. They don't have to go out and they just need to hang around because, the Ravens are banged up. The Browns won't cause too many problems besides when they play each other. They just have to make sure they stay intact with the Steelers, and they can sneak in. They might have a losing record, but sneak into the playoffs. Joey B coming back, I don't think that's a team you want to be coming up against.
No, because they'll have all the belief in the world, and you add Joe Burrow. If they can just keep an even record, if they can go 500, then they're going to really be trouble at the end of the season. The only thing you'd say is, how many weeks does it take Burrow to get back in a rhythm coming back, which is
it's the same as the 49ers. If it doesn't matter which Joe you've got, as long as they're winning, keep Joey B. You got Joey F. Keep Joey B. Just get him right before you worry about getting him back. If Flacco's getting the W's.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, what a story Flacco is too. Like just in the, like his personal story over the years in the NFL, he's done it all. He's been everywhere and he comes in and has a win like that. Like what another feather in his cap of a fascinating career in football.
He'll be, I'm putting it down early, he's going to get traded to the Steelers. So he's the first quarterback ever that's played for all 4 teams in one division.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I really can.
Rogers parts ways and
Yeah.
Flacco walks in. So you can't have one 41-year-old without using the other one the next season. So the next one we've kind of touched on a couple of times, Chiefs looking like the Chiefs again. Travis Kelce looking a little bit more Travis Kelce-like, and they humbled the Raiders 30-zip.
Yeah, big shutout. And I think, unless I'm mistaken, Mahomes played, 5 near-perfect drives and then just sat it out. Like, that was his day done. And they still held the Raiders at bay. They controlled the football. Also, Rashee Rice coming back this week.
Huge.
And you have to say, they were forcing it to him for touchdowns, and it didn't matter. They wanted to make sure that he was back in the game, taking catches. And that was another one. You look at the box score and just how many receivers caught catches. And it's one of those teams that when you've got a quarterback like Mahomes and that many people who can catch the ball and do something with it, they are definitely trouble. And they seem to be back playing quality football. Let's see how it maintains, but they've now got the horses on the paddock to get it done.
Yeah, and the confidence, which is dangerous. And the rest of their division is starting to falter a little bit. Probably the Broncos just kind of keeping their nose in front. The other game, there's 2 games today on the Monday night slate. The Buccaneers going down. They did have a couple of the weapons back that we didn't think they would. They struggled a little bit against the Lions. Lions finally getting... I put it up there. I didn't say it'll be a win regardless if they won, like a good win. A good win for them. They looked in control and really played it quite well. But the Tampa Bay moves to 5-2. And surprisingly, in the NFC South, nipping at their heels is the Carolina Panthers at 4-3.
Yeah. And who would have expected that? Although there's some talk, like who's going to be starting for the Panthers next week is a quarterback is a big question as well. There's injury trouble there. Bryce, yeah. I'm not remembering anyone's names today.
No. You're on a bye week, mate. Don't stress.
But that division, once again, is a really interesting division. I mean, at this stage, you'd have to say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are much better situated to get through the season and maintain a pretty good record. And they have been playing well. And with those weapons coming back, you believe in them a bit more. And also, the up and down Lions, they were playing... I guess the loss the week before is a question. Did they just scheme up badly? Were they just not ready for last week? Because they looked all over the place. They looked eminently beatable last week. But this week, they definitely looked a lot more like the Lions and were definitely back in the game. I don't think... I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be too worried about the Panthers over the course of the season. But definitely, there's some green shoots. There's some signs of life from the Panthers there. And some passages of good football.
There's definitely a few teams, and I put Panthers in that group of, signs of life. The Giants, like we're going to talk about in a minute. And, mate, if they can get above 500 for the season, I think the Panthers walk away and say, we're a show the next couple of seasons, which not many people would have thought that at the start of the year, and I definitely don't think we did. The last one before we do deep dive into a couple of games. As we sit here right now, your Bills coming off 2 losses in a row. The New England Patriots, the best team out of the AFC East?
Well, no, you're only harming your own reputation by saying silly things like that. But what I will say is...
They've won 3 in a row on the road, mate. What do you want?
They're playing very well. And I think the much maligned as a head coach, Josh McDaniels, is doing a great job with that offense. It's a reminder that there's so much talk about Brady and Belichick winning Super Bowls, but Josh McDaniels was a huge part of that. The scheme, as an OC, what he was able to draw up and execute was definitely part of that the secret source of that success of the Patriots dynasty. So you just have to say, like, he can't head coach for shit, but he sure can get an offense cooking, and he seems to be exactly what Drake May needs. You know, he's giving him the plays to win. They simplified it a bit earlier in the season. They're starting to add some wrinkles. They're starting to get a bit more complicated in what they're doing, and they are playing well. And on defense, they're playing really good football on defense. The secondary is one of the best in football. Their D-line is doing well. They are, they're ahead of schedule. We'll say that. They're probably, a lot of people said at the start of the season, the Patriots will be, better this year. They're definitely ahead. That's right. They're definitely ahead of where we thought they'd be. And they're definitely going to be more trouble for people, than we expected. I will say that, everyone takes it one game at a time, but the Bills would have Patriots circled on their calendar and know that they cannot lose twice in a season to the Patriots. They won't let that happen.
I've got my pick for Coach of the Year was Rabel, and that's looking pretty bloody good at the moment. But if they keep the way they're going, I see them playing playoffs, which is well ahead of where I think we still had them. We had them playing a good season, maybe breaking 500, but I reckon their playoffs be on the way they're going.
Yeah, I think, and you look at that in the AFC, once you get the tops of the division, you would say they're probably the next standout team. They're playing the kind of football, maybe in the West, you've got the Broncos are playing, next to the Chiefs, the Broncos are playing well enough out there that maybe they're better than the Patriots, but it's pretty close. And think about it, the Broncos are a team that made the wild card last year. The Patriots were nowhere near that. And so, well done, Mike Vrabel. They've definitely got a culture. They've definitely got an identity, and there's discipline that hasn't been there before. And Vrabel and McDaniels, I mean, that they know each other so well. They've got history, and that's a tough combination to take on.
All right, let's get into some of those games, and one of them you just mentioned, the Broncos over the Giants. Now, if you haven't seen this game or don't know what happened, go back and watch the 40 because this was incredible. The Broncos were humbled, again, my favourite word of the day, for 3 quarters, held to 0 for 3 quarters, put 33 on them in the last to win by a point. And is this a game that the Giants, yes, they shat the bed and they lost 33-32, but do they still walk away happy? Like, is there a scenario where you go, you know what, we lost, but they still probably want another good draft pick coming in. So this works out. Realistically, they're not going to make playoffs if you're a serious football head and you're going to look at it properly. So it's probably a good loss for them.
It is a good loss because there's no lack of belief in themselves coming out of this one. There's nothing about this that they played so badly or let something go so badly that they need to go into the room of mirrors and see who comes out. It's not one of those sorts of games. But you would have to say that all the signs are there that they know how to start a football game and get ahead. And they dominated. They really did dominate the Broncos for so much of this game. And you would say that Jackson Dart just threw one, possibly 2 balls that he just absolutely shouldn't have thrown. Perfect. Rookie quarterback playing lights out a few weeks in a row, but making the kind of big mistake that he needs to learn from and get better. That will improve his game significantly, which is what they want at this stage. I've got a bit of a question over the Giants' defense in that last quarter because they've been so strong all year. And the one thing we all said about the Giants coming into this season was Jackson Dart will figure himself out. They might have something going on at running back, but at least their defense has some horrifying people, just some terrible monsters to ruin your afternoon. And they just couldn't make a stop against the Broncos in the last quarter. And to give an idea of how bad that last quarter was, this is an incredible stat. For teams that are down by 18 with 6 minutes to go, before this game, they had a record of 1,062-0. And that record is now 1,062-1. This is the first time in 1,063 games that a team up by 18 with 6 minutes to go has managed to lose. So, and that was, the offense didn't keep up, but that's on the defense. They just let the Broncos score too much too quickly and snatch that game from them. They've got the players to improve. I think the Giants I don't think we're quite into safe territory for Dayball and Joe Shane, the GM at the Giants, but we're close.
Mm.
They're playing the kind of football that an owner can go, all right, I'll give you another year. And I think that's the big question. They've got their quarterback. They know they've got their quarterback. They've got a star running back. They've got incredible wide receiver. They've got a D line that's terrifying. They've got all the pieces they need. And now you would say that maybe they've got a coach who has the owner's confidence for another season. That's good news for the Giants.
I would have said he's pretty safe, but who knows these days? As I've already forgotten his name, the Callahan from the Titans. We all thought he was pretty safe, and he's gone. Mike McDaniels, I don't know how he's still got a job, especially after getting swiped by the Browns. I think this is, like I said, it's a good loss for the Giants. They're going to learn more from it than getting the win, I think, because like I said, he's only in his fourth or fifth game as a QB, and they are a scary defense, but also put it to you that they come up against, a downhill skiing Bo Nix who had nothing to lose. Like that's any quarterback, any decent quarterback, if they've got nothing to lose, that's when they're most dangerous. So I think it's just an incredible, more than it was a bad loss for the Giants, it was just an incredible win for the Broncos.
Yeah, and came at the right time for the Broncos too. Like that division, the AFC West, is now like they're up against the Chiefs, who many would say are the most likely to make the Super Bowl now, the way that they are playing. They've got to be playing good football to stay in it and to have a chance to do better than they did last year, making the wild card. So they needed it, and I think it's good. It's good for them. Look, everyone's a winner on this game, and it was just insane to watch. It was a crazy game to watch. And I will say we've had quite a few of them. It started with the first big game of the year, the Bills-Ravens, which should have been all over and wasn't. And we've had a few games like this where just it's turned around and we've watched things happen that we've never seen happen before on a football field. It is absolutely, if you're going to watch a game of the week, this is definitely one that, like, take the time, watch this game. It's absolutely worth the watch.
It just shows that this season, more than any other, that no lead is safe. You're always in the game. You never give it up. So the second game I want to kind of touch on, and I think it's a huge game because the Falcons had so much anticipation, I guess. Like everyone kind of put it on them that they come out and schemed up and played so well against your Bills that they were going to kind of dog walk these 49ers that are a bit banged up. But Christian McCaffrey came out and said, you can go and get stuff. This is my football game, and just took it away from him.
McCaffrey played, I mean, we've seen it before. It's actually not that shocking, but he just played one of those games where he was unstoppable, and it was just when in doubt, just give it to me. I'm going to run through some guys. I'll catch anything. I'll be everywhere in this game. And you'd say that he's one of the two big things on the offense that gave them reason to believe in themselves in this game. And I'll get back to the second thing in a moment. But on the other side of the ball, they'd lost Warner. That line, that pass rush, everyone was saying it was going to be in trouble. They had too many injuries, couldn't get it done. But everyone on that defense stepped up. Everyone put pressure on the quarterback, got the job done. Spencer Rattler was under pressure all day. And it is just a tribute to, I'd say, Shanahan, that defense, and Salah. Like, what Salah's done in 2 weeks to get that defense just absolutely humming with massive holes, like huge holes in that defense. And they played a great game against the Falcons. The other big factor over on the offense, you got to say, is Mac Jones. Now, we've said it before on this show. He's the best possible backup quarterback you could have, because he's not quite playing well enough that you've got a drama for QB1. You'd still take a healthy Brock Purdy if you can't, over Mac Jones. But Mac Jones is playing great football, and he puts it on the line, and he stays in the pocket, and he takes hits. He runs in a way that he's not healthy. Like, he just runs too hard sometimes with his head down, and I'm worried about his well-being all the fucking time. But he is loving playing football. He's a weird unit, and he's doing a good job for the 49ers.
And he's just giving them that freedom. We've kind of spoke about turf toe privately and how bad it's a debilitating injury. It's got the worst name for something it's a very serious injury, and they kind of went through it in the broadcast of it's right under the big toe. It's the ligament under there, and it's a real day to day. He could be all right for a week and then turns the wrong way, and it sets him back 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
there's no timeline for when Brock Purdy comes back, but having that safety blanket that is Mac Jones at the moment is just perfect for what they need. And I just want to touch on, it is your bye week. You said that they were playing against Spencer Rattler. Obviously, Michael Penix is the starting quarterback.
God. What is going on with my brain this week? Unbelievable.
You'll be primed for our preview.
This is definitely my worst podcast so far that I've done. This is I need a bye week. The coach has got to sit me out for the last quarter.
We're putting you in the middle of it. We're saying we're jumping you straight off the cliff, and you'll be primed for our preview episode, mate. But
just got to play through it. That is amazing. You're right. Michael Penix, who struggled under pressure. Like, he really was having trouble making good decisions. He threw. There was one interception that you just couldn't see what he was meant to be doing. Like, you just could, like everything about the decision. He threw it into double coverage. It was just, it didn't make any sense at all. And that's, he's a relatively young quarterback and he needs to get that experience. But it's a tribute to the 49ers for the pressure they got on him. But that was, it was not good enough on the day for Penix, and the Falcons do have ways to go.
And I think you've said it perfectly about Rob Saleh. They made the comment that he was playing with mud and he's turned it to clay and moulded this defense. And because it's a bit like the Lions today. They are banged up. They are missing players in key spots, but it's just next man up, and they've got that expectation that you have to come in and play your role. And both the Lions and the 49ers are doing that, and they're getting wins. So that's where I think the West is still dangerous, because if they're doing it with those kind of players, Fred Warner's obviously not going to come back. He's done for the season, but they're going to get other players back, Brock Purdy being one of them. They're going to be dangerous in the back end of the season.
No, they absolutely are. And it's interesting. You read anything written about Saleh going back to the Niners, and people in the building are saying that his experience as a head coach has changed him, and he can talk at a level that you don't get out of a standard DC. He has a bigger picture. He understands more about the game than he did. So what he can do as a DC is at an elite level. It's exactly what Shanahan needs on that side of the ball. And you would have to say as well that, okay, he loses Warner. He's got missing pieces on defense. Everyone thinks it's Swiss cheese and he's going to have a terrible week. How's he going to scheme it up? And you can imagine him saying, I coach the fucking New York Jets. This is easy. This is nothing. You should just try coaching the Jets as head coach.
In that building.
This is easy. So, they are trouble. They are absolutely.
You don't know
trouble.
what stress is until you've coached the Jets. But
yeah,
incredible week. We can't stop saying it. This year is different for some reason, and we're enjoying it every single week. I can't wait for week 8, mate. My Packers up against the Steelers is going to be the Sunday night football. Could be the game of the year, just with the storyline that's going to run with it. Make sure you find us on all the socials, as well as YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to us. Tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe. Hit that. There's a little bell on most of them to tell you when our episodes come out, because that's important. You get them straight away. So thank you very much, mate. And we'll see you for our preview. Make sure you're sharper.
I will definitely study up for the preview. It's obvious that I have had a week pretending that football doesn't exist after the way the Bills were playing going into the bye. But we are back. Bills are back next week. And also, we'll have a chat in the preview episode as well. The Eagles, who were pretty uninspiring, for the start of the season, they are starting to throw the ball around. Some great offense being played by Hurts and his receiving core there. And we can have a little chat about that. And good to chat about that.
Might have something special about that game coming up. Just keep your eyes peeled and your ears open, I guess. But as always, mate, your team didn't play, so go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed.